Imagine you're treading water. Your arms are burning, your lungs are incredibly tight, and you're just kicking with absolutely everything you have to keep your chin above the surface.
Yeah, that pure panic.
Right. Have you ever found yourself in a situation in life where simply trying harder like that completely failed you?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like where the sheer exhausting effort of trying to stay afloat felt like the very thing actively pulling you under?
It is a profoundly disorienting experience. I mean,
Wow.
primarily because we are completely conditioned from childhood to believe that applying more force or, more willpower is the universal solution to literally any problem.
Put your head down and push through. Right.
Exactly. But there is a terrifying, really paradigm-shifting realization that hits when that usual survival strategy suddenly becomes the enemy.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that incredibly specific, terrifying feeling of losing your footing when effort stops working, that is the entire focus of our deep dive today.
And it's a heavy one.
It is. We are looking at this absolutely haunting piece of music from 2014, and the sources we're using do a brilliant job of tracking the raw, physical reality of this experience step by step.
What philosophers might call a phenomenological breakdown.
Right. But what you and I know is that feeling of absolute crushing weight.
Yeah. And the piece of music serving as our map today called Particles.
Such a beautiful song.
It really is. It's a stunning collaboration between the Icelandic composer Olafur Arnalds and Nanna Bryndís Hilmarsdóttir.
Who you probably know as the lead vocalist for the band of Monsters and Men.
Yes, exactly. And it comes from a project with a title that perfectly frames the territory we are entering today. The album is called And They Have Escaped the Weight of Darkness.
Just a brilliant title.
Mm-hmm.
So the mission for us today is to explore how this piece perfectly captures what happens when our coherent, organized self begins to dissolve into scattered matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially a masterclass in the emotional physics of surrender.
Right.
Because our sources argue that giving up the fight isn't necessarily a failure,
Right.
but that sometimes it's actually the only honest, rational response to being completely overwhelmed.
I want to latch onto that phrase from the source material, emotional physics.
Yeah, I love that term.
Because to really understand this concept, we can't just jump straight to the lyrics. We have to understand the environment those words live in.
The sonic space.
Right. The music itself sonically enacts the physical sensation of drowning before the singer even takes her first breath.
And how exactly does Arnold's achieve that? Because the notes we have describe the sonic architecture here as water, as emotional physics, but, I mean, musically, what is actually happening to our ears to make us feel submerged?
It really comes down to auditory gravity.
Auditory gravity.
Yeah. If you think about a standard pop song, a steady drum beat or a metronome pulse acts as gravity. It tells your brain exactly where the ground is.
Okay, sure.
Well, Arnold's completely removes that. He constructs this ambient field where there is no real rhythmic anchor.
So you're just floating?
Exactly. And when a beat does exist, it's muffled. It's heavily filtered so that the sharp high frequencies are just cut out. It literally sounds like you're hearing it from the bottom of a swimming pool.
Oh, wow. I can hear that, yeah.
And the piano figures he uses, they're played with felt on the strings. So they are warm, but they swell and fade super unpredictably.
Like waves.
Yes, they appear and recede like objects floating past you underwater, and that deprives the listener of any stable auditory footing.
Man, so you are sonically in free fall before the story even begins.
You are.
And into that destabilized space comes Nana's voice. And she's luminous, her tone is pure, but the crucial detail here is that she doesn't overpower the music.
Right, she's not fighting it.
Exactly. She isn't belting out a power ballad to conquer the instruments. She is just another element trapped within that ambient pressure. She's reporting her distress to us rather than performing it.
And the lack of melodrama is exactly what makes it so devastating. She is subject to the exact same atmosphere and pressure as the piano and the electronic drones, which brings us to the moment she begins to speak. She says, "Here I am, floating in emerald sea. Keep me dancing, keep me as still as can be."
Now, an emerald sea sounds gorgeous on paper.
It really does.
It sounds rich, vivid, maybe even peaceful. But if you think about the physics of floating, you aren't swimming with purpose.
No, you're not.
Floating implies a complete lack of direction. It
Yeah.
means you are being held up by something other than your own effort, totally at the mercy of whatever current is moving beneath you.
And in that state of floating, she asks whatever is holding her for something physically impossible. She says, keep me dancing, keep me as still as can be.
Right.
Just think about the mechanics of those two states. Dancing requires responsiveness, muscular tension, moving through space, and, giving yourself over to a rhythm.
Sure.
Stillness requires absolute rigidity or total limpness.
It's a structural impossibility.
Exactly. She is begging whatever force is holding her to manage this massive contradiction, mostly because her own capacity to manage it has completely evaporated.
Wow. If you are listening to this and trying to imagine that feeling, it's like trying to be both the ship's anchor and its sail at the exact same time.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
It's just impossible. And that impossibility feeds right into the recurring logic of the song, where she sings, and I try to keep the balance right, and I try, but it feels like wasted time.
Yeah.
You cannot effort your way out of the ocean the same way you can effort your way through a difficult spreadsheet at work or like a really tough workout.
Because the sea simply does not care about your effort.
Right.
The repetition of the lyric, and I try, it mimics that exact human instinct to return again and again to a strategy that isn't working. We think, if I just paddle harder, the ocean will yield.
But it won't.
No. And the tragedy she recognizes isn't, I failed to paddle hard enough. The tragedy is wasted time.
Yeah.
It is the profound grief of realizing that the entire framework of trying simply does not apply to the environment she's in.
So when that impossible balancing act inevitably fails, when asking the ocean to hold you up stops working, the environment naturally turns hostile. We see this distinct shift from passive floating into an active physical invasion. The agency changes entirely.
Yes, it does.
Suddenly she sings, but these heavy hands, they're pulling me down on my chest.
What's fascinating here is the clinical accuracy of that line. It is staggering.
Oh, so?
Well, the source material points out that this perfectly describes the somatic signatures of grief or clinical depression or intense anxiety.
Somatic meaning.
Meaning the body literally generating a physical reality from an emotional state. Chest heaviness, intense pressure, the restriction of the lungs. These aren't just poetic metaphors for feeling sad.
Right, it's real.
This is the literal physiological weight the body manifests when the nervous system is completely overwhelmed.
The body is registering a physical force that has no visible physical source.
Exactly.
But there's a specific word in the next line that I am really hung up on. She sings, latching on, coloring all of my flesh.
Yeah.
When we usually hear the word coloring, it sounds gentle. It evokes crayons or an artist bringing light to a canvas. But in the context of heavy hands pulling you underwater, coloring feels incredibly dark.
It really does.
It feels violently invasive. Am I misreading that?
Not at all. You are zeroing in on the exact mechanism of the horror there. Coloring in this context implies total saturation.
Saturation.
Yeah, if you think about the physical process of dyeing a fabric, the dye permeates the fibers at a molecular level. It fundamentally changes the fabric from the inside out by contact with a force it didn't choose.
It can't be undyed.
Exactly. Whatever this invisible weight is, it isn't just sitting on top of her, it is permeating her. It's an invasion that is altering her very composition.
Man. Which makes the following line incredibly chilling. She says, quietly, you hover over me.
Yeah.
Suddenly, this invisible force has a you. It becomes an entity.
Yeah.
But it's left completely unspecified.
And by refusing to specify who or what the you is, the song opens a door for the listener to step inside. Is the you a person who caused unimaginable harm? Is it systemic burnout? Is it grief? A god.
Well, whatever it is for you.
Right. Whatever hovers over you in your darkest moments is allowed to inhabit that space.
Yeah.
And notice the mechanism of its arrival. It happens quietly.
Always quietly.
The most devastating weights in life rarely arrive with a loud cinematic crash. They slip in without announcement, and suddenly they are just overwhelmingly present.
And her response to this quiet hovering is a major escalation. Earlier, she was just trying to keep the balance.
Yeah.
Now, the lyric changes to, and I fight.
Yes.
She understands the water is rising, the stakes are life and death, and she brings maximum force to bear against the weight.
Oh.
But the result is identical. It still feels like wasted time.
Because the rule we established at the beginning remains absolute. The framework of effort does not apply.
Right.
Whether it's the gentle effort of trying to keep balance or the fierce, desperate effort of fighting for air, the sea will always win a contest of pure force.
So if trying is useless and fighting is useless, what on earth is left? We reach the turning point of the deep dive here, where the strategy of effort is finally exhausted and abandoned. The lyrics shift to, say goodnight, I know that I'm swallowed in sea. We collide, colors that devour me.
And you have to pay close attention to the grammatical shift that happens right after that. She says, just say goodnight. I'm already down.
Already down.
The tense has shifted into the past. The terrible event we've been anticipating has already occurred.
She's not fighting it anymore.
Right. She is no longer treading water, speaking from the surface, fearing the drop. She is speaking to us from inside the sea. The submersion is totally complete.
And musically, when she repeats that phrase already down, the ambient field we talked about earlier actually starts to thin out.
It does.
The dense pressure of the instruments pulls back, and it feels exactly like a massive lung finally exhaling.
Yeah.
There's literally nowhere lower left to fall.
Yeah.
But, this brings up a huge question for me as a listener. Right after she hits the bottom and says she's already down, she sings, "And I cry." So what does this all mean when she says, "And I cry"? Is this the moment of total breakdown? My immediate instinct is that she's completely lost the battle, that the weight finally broke her.
It is incredibly easy to read it as a defeat, but if you look at the physiology of trauma and release, it's actually the exact opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the crying here is not a breakdown. It is the parasympathetic nervous system kicking in.
Okay, explain that.
Well, when you fight something inevitably overpowering for an extended period, your body holds a toxic amount of tension. Those tears are the body's physiological release after the recognition of truth.
So it's the relief of the pretense finally being over.
Exactly. It is the profound grief of having tried so impossibly hard only to arrive somewhere that your effort couldn't prevent. But it's an honest place.
Wow.
She isn't crying out for someone to throw her a life preserver. She is asking the listener to witness her state. She wants a witness, not a rescue.
A witness, not a rescue. Man, that reframes the entire emotional core of the song.
It really does.
But structurally, that creates a massive problem for the artists. If you've brought your listener all the way to the bottom of the ocean and the protagonist has abandoned all effort and accepted their fate, how do you actually end a song about a state that has no resolution?
Right.
You're just stuck there in the dark.
And if you're listening to this and waiting for a neat, tidy resolution, here's where they completely pull the rug out from under you.
They really do.
They refuse to give you a sudden upward modulation or like a triumphant chord progression of hope.
Here's where it gets really interesting. At the very end of the track, the outro goes, "And I try, but it feels like wasted."
Yeah.
And it just abruptly stops. The word wasted is chopped off mid-syllable. The actual audio file just ceases to exist before the thought can finish.
It's jarring.
It's like a movie cutting to black right before the climax. Think about the physical tension that creates in your body as a listener. You are left completely suspended over a void.
It is a formally brilliant choice. The sentence literally runs out of time. The lyric that has acted as the central spine of the entire song, this recurring refrain about effort and futility, cannot even complete itself. The audio engineering enacts the very incompleteness of effort as a survival strategy.
Because you can't even finish the sentence about how useless your effort was.
Exact.
And the sources point out that this specific structural choice is deeply rooted in what is called the Icelandic emotional register.
Yes.
But how exactly does that cultural register work musically? Because we're told they place enormous, devastating feeling inside a very spare container. How do you build a spare container for something as massive as drowning?
Well, it comes down to musical geography. The Icelandic tradition often reflects the vast, isolated landscapes of the country itself.
That makes sense.
Instead of using sweeping cinematic strings or massive drum fills to tell you exactly how sad you should be feeling, Arnold's uses distance.
Distance.
Yeah. He leaves miles of silence between piano strikes. He uses long, trailing reverbs that fade into nothingness. It is crucial to understand that this is precision, not repression.
Right, it's very intentional.
The emotion they're conveying is massive. It's the total loss of self, the failure and survival. But the musical gesture used to hold it is tiny.
And the massive gap between the huge feeling and the tiny gesture is where all the ache of the song lives.
Exactly. It forces you to stay in the space of being down without rushing to offer a forced turnaround.
There's immense bravery in that, I think.
Definitely.
It's the bravery to just sit in a pitch-black room and not immediately scramble to find the light switch.
And if we look deeper at that sudden cutoff at the end, there is a profound compassion in it.
Really? How so?
Notice the words she is singing right before the silence swallows her. She sings, "And I try." Even at the very end, even pinned to the bottom of the sea, even knowing with absolute certainty that it is futile, she is still trying. It's a reflex.
It's so human.
And the song does not condemn her for that deeply human instinct. It just gently shows us that the attempt couldn't be finished. It says, this is where we are. We are not going to pretend otherwise.
Man. So bringing all of this out of the realm of musical theory and directly into the reality of daily life particles is ultimately a thesis on the failure of self-management.
It is.
You and I spend so much of our daily lives trying to keep the balance right. We try to effort our way through the heavy hands pressing down on our chests, whether that's systemic burnout, a profound life transition, or a devastating personal loss.
Because we are a society completely obsessed with productivity and problem solving.
Yes, exactly.
But this deep dive is a vital reminder that we have to recognize when to drop the framework of effort. There are certain situations in life that simply require presence and surrender.
Yeah.
Trying to effort your way through them is literally fighting the ocean. It will only exhaust you and pull you under faster.
And sometimes the absolute healthiest, most rational thing you can do is admit that you are floating, say, I'm already down, and let the truth of your situation saturate you without fighting it.
It sits beside you in that sunken place, and it doesn't demand that you be anywhere else.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with, building on the very title of the song Particles.
Oh, okay.
Throughout this deep dive, we've focused on the tragedy and the quiet grace of a coherent self dissolving into scattered pieces under the immense pressure of the ocean.
Right.
But think about what particles actually are in the realm of physics. They are the fundamental, irreducible building blocks of the entire universe. Every single thing that exists is made of atoms and particles breaking down, colliding, and combining.
Wow.
So what if dissolving into particles isn't just a tragic ending? What if that dissolution, that total loss of the coherent self that you fought so hard to maintain, is actually the necessary raw state required for those pieces to eventually collide and build an entirely new, unrecognizable version of yourself?
I love that.
Think back to that feeling we started with, when the desperate, burning effort of trying to stay afloat is the very thing pulling you under. Maybe letting go, maybe allowing yourself to become those scattered particles in the Emerald Sea, is the only way you eventually find the pieces to build something that can actually breathe underwater.